Man, I mean, like when I got into nootropics, my entire life changed. Like my productivity doubled. I was able to induce focus on cue, motivation on cue. I just felt amazing. Aniracetam, oxiracetam, 9-methyl-B-carboline. Like the choices are endless, and what you can do if you're stacking effectively, it's incredible. I'm your host, Ryan Michael Ballo. Thanks for being with me. So I'm going to talk about 6 herbal nootropics that are actually highly effective and do a lot of really potently awesome things that I think a lot of us know about, and we certainly talk about on the YouTube channel, but may not be using as effectively as we can. I'm going to break them down, what they do, what they're useful for, and the dose ranges to come. In the meantime, what supports this broadcast are epic nootropic products at livecortex.com. Number 1, Cortex Stack. Look, if you want a verbal fluency, mental energy, motivation stack that you can just take 2 capsules and boom, clean stimulant energy, get Cortex. Do it at livecortex.com. It's actually a perfect subscription price. It gets shipped to you every 30 days. It's $27.99. You will love that stack. Get it at livecortex.com. If you're new to nootropics, get Nootropics Ground Zero. It is a video course that I created for people that are brand new. You've got to get it and you've got to watch it. If you're in a couple years and want to ascend to the 6-year mark, get the Nootropics Masterclass. That is a higher level, more advanced course on using and getting benefits from nootropics. And then if you want to go to the 10-year mark, where the legends of nootropics use a particular methodology to formulate stacks, adjust stacks, finalize stacks, and everything in between, get the Nootropics God course. That is also a video course, and it is an hour and a half long of me giving you the works. 10-year mark. Lastly, if you want to work with me on a one-on-one capacity, we've got consults, a 3.5-month and a 6-month consults. These are one-on-one, hands-on, results-driven, brain and energy engineering consults where we will get you firing on all cylinders. Do all that stuff at livecortex.com. Okay. So 6 chemicals, right? I'm going to give you the 6 compounds first. These are 6 highly impressive herbal nootropics that we don't often talk about or even put in the limelight. And then I'm going to break each one of them down. So we're going to be discussing today Tulsi Holy Basil. That's number 1, Tulsi Holy Basil. Number 2, L-theanine, fittingly, L-theanine. Number 3, lemon balm. Number 4, Ginkgo biloba. Number 5, artichoke extract. And then number 6, Bacopa. And you might be thinking, oh, I've heard of these before and I know what they do. But actually, I'm going to break down some stuff that really no one is talking about and really how to use these chemicals to get good nootropic effects. Because they're not inferior to racetams or something. These chemicals are incredibly effective and potent. And you can get them to be really, really, brain energy inducing for a lot of them, or relaxing. Or stress reducing if you're combining them with the right things. So I'm going to break that down. Let's start with Tulsi Holy Basil. So what this really is a potent anti-inflammatory herb. That's essentially what it's doing for the most part. It reduces oxidative cellular and chromosomal damage from radiation. That's a study. So imagine what it does to oxidative stress, cellular oxidative stress in your brain in response to just regular stuff, your regular life, right? If it's able to reduce cellular and oxidative damage from radiation, imagine the oxidative damage that you may have from alcohol or from some of the food that you may eat, or toxins in your life that you could get alleviated and thus have better brain function with Tulsi Holy Basil. This whole free radical scavenging effect of certain compounds have an effect on brain performance, right? They clear your brain. If all else is correct and your brain is functioning as it should for the most part, and you have a pretty healthy physiology, Tulsi Holy Basil is a powerful compound for actually giving you good brain performance. Sometimes I'll take 500 milligrams of it with some coffee. That's it. That'll be my stack for the day. And I won't feel like I took modafinil, right? But I will feel clearer and my brain will work better. If I'm honest with myself, I'm actually functioning better just taking Tulsi. It also, and I'm not quite sure about the mechanism of this, makes me a little relaxed. Like it just kind of chills me out and puts me in a better place to focus, right? It may be slowing my brain down just a little bit, just enough to where focus is easier. And then the last thing is it's a mild acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. So it'll keep a little bit of acetylcholine around in your brain to fire between neurons active for kind of the effect duration window that you're taking it. There's also some research that suggests that it may raise extracellular dopamine levels. Now, I'm not sure where, because I think that's relevant. And I forget the study that I found that on. But research suggests that it may raise extracellular dopamine levels. When I take it, I don't really notice much of a motivation effect from it. So if it is raising dopamine, it's probably at some minimal type of level. The dose range, in my opinion, would be 200 to 1,000 milligrams. You can take up to 1,000 milligrams of that stuff. Any more sort of overkill, any less really won't get effects. I'm usually at the 500 milligram range with Tulsi Holy Basil. All right, so that's number one. Potent, powerful, anti-anxiety, chill you out, but also allow you to focus type of herbal nootropic. Let's talk about theanine. Okay, so the mechanism of action of theanine as it relates to nootropics and relates to our interest is increases in brain serotonin and GABA. You're actually able to increase the transmitters, both of those transmitters concentrations for the duration that the compound is affecting your brain. But there's a lot to that, right? L-theanine is best surgically used in conjunction with teacrine, aniracetam, alcar, phenylpiracetam, modafinil, some of these really stimulant-esque nootropics, balancing out the stack. Almost these days, there's almost no circumstances where if I'm taking something like modafinil and aniracetam and then a choline source, where I don't have theanine in the mix, right? Because it just prevents the overstimulation. Balance and focus, focus from a nootropic stack and getting a really, really good flow state is a balance. And you have to be just below the 2 stimulated mark. And theanine actually helps you get below that 2 stimulated mark if you're not able to achieve it with the stimulant stuff in your stack or just in general with your stack. And sometimes that's hard to achieve, right? So theanine comes in and balances things out. In this particular case, you're looking at 50 to 200 milligrams in taking it with an otherwise stimulant stack to balance things out. But aside from that, taking it as an anxiolytic, a compound that will reduce your stress and anxiety for the effect duration window that it's going to be affecting you, you want to look at the 200 milligram to 1,000 milligram range. 200 milligram to 1,000 milligram range. That's just as a standalone anxiety reducing compound. There have been times, and there will be plenty more times in my life, where aside from taking it with a stimulant stack, I'll just be in a place where I'm anxious about something. It's usually a problem in my life. And look, being anxious about a problem does not help you solve the problem, right? It'll get you to take action to solve the problem, but you need to solve it anyway, right? So you're going to take action on it. Chilling yourself out, however, and making it so that you're not as anxious about the problem when you go to solve it makes solving it a lot easier. And then, of course, general anxiety, aside from problems, people have anxiety for nothing, right? It's a condition that's happening to them. Theanine helps a lot with that in the 200 to a gram range. Lemon balm. This is the third chemical. Impressively awesome nootropic compound. And I say nootropic because it's working on a neurotransmitter. It's typically classified as nootropic in the discussion of nootropics, like on the web, etc., and it comes up a lot. And I actually use it a lot with clients for a lot of different reasons. What it's primarily doing, so its mechanism of action, is it's inhibiting GABA transaminase. And GABA transaminase is a GABA breakdown enzyme. When you inhibit that enzyme for a brief period, you accumulate GABA in a healthful way. It's not like this over excessive accumulation, sort of in a controlled, managed way in your brain for the effect duration window that lemon balm is affecting you. So it will, by definition, therefore, induce a state of subtle calming and subtle relaxation. Now, you can use it as a standalone. I would use it in the 200 to 1,000 milligram range as a standalone. But I like to use it also as a background calm-inducing or balancer in stimulatory stacks. I mean, there'll be stacks that I take. Usually it's like something like the AACT stack, Alcar caffeine, theanine, alpha GPC, something that I just need potent stimulation from, but that in order to reach the flow state, I need a calming agent in the mix. And lemon balm usually works well in that particular case. In the case of the AACT stack, which you should look up on livecortex.com or our YouTube channel, or in the case of like having an otherwise stimulant stack, like high dose phenylpiracetam as an example, I'll take like 250 of phenylpiracetam if I really want to hammer a lot of stuff in and just be super energized and I feel good and I slept good. That's the best time for that with some choline. And then I'll bring in like 500 milligrams of lemon balm with it. And then boom, flow state. I just get in a really, really cool place. So that's lemon balm. Moving on to ginkgo. All right, so ginkgo does a lot of things, but suffice it to say, like it's got like antiplatelet activity and blood flow enhancing activity. It's the flavone and terpene lactones in it that, you know, scientists trying to isolate this attribute that to. But it's also an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory chemical. But its main mechanism of action as it relates to what's important to us is brain blood flow. And it increases cerebral blood flow. This is important, right? There's a lot of chemicals that do that, like vinpocetine. And if you take them by themselves, you won't notice a substantial stimulant effect, but you will notice a brain clearing, brain flow effect. Like the brain just functions better when you have better blood flow, right? If you have a condition or something that is inhibiting blood flow in your brain, then I'm sure a lot of you have actually felt this before and you just didn't attribute it to that because you didn't know. There's no way of measuring it. It inhibits your thinking. It's like it makes your thinking very sludgy. When you have an infusion of blood in your brain and it's circulating properly, the way that neurons fire and the way that energy is produced and the way that your brain moves and your mind thinks is faster and better. That's why ginkgo is a highly effective compound. I'll dose it sometimes by itself for that effect in 100 to 400 milligrams. That's kind of my dose range. I usually end up somewhere in the middle. And then, though, you could stack it with a bunch of other things. You can stack it with racetams. Like, say you have a racetam stack of like 500 of aniracetam, 50 of CDP choline. Add in a couple hundred milligrams of ginkgo, and then wow, on top of that aniracetam CDP choline effect, you have this brain blood flow effect. It's like extra stimulation, extra clarity, extra functionality. The stuff is awesome. And again, it's an herbal compound that we don't discuss all that often. And we should. It's like, it's not inferior to any of the other compounds that we talk about. It just may not be as stimulatory, but it's got really, really potently, highly effective elements to it, like increasing cerebral blood flow, being an antioxidant, being anti-inflammatory, having antiplatelet, attributes to it. Very, very effective compound, ginkgo biloba. Fifth is artichoke extract. Artichoke extract, highly classified as a nootropic, right? Kind of in the community. I think it was Natural Stacks that first brought this to the forefront with Siltep, their product, and they were onto something. What it's doing is it's increasing intracellular camp, so it's helping your brain produce more energy. And that's useful, right? That's incredibly useful for a lot of things. I mean, just doing anything. I mean, a lot of times I'll take stacks just to provoke energy, right? Just to have energy to do stuff. Like I might be putting something off. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of would rather have a lot of energy if I wanted to do this. Taking something like artichoke extract puts me in a place and could put you in a place where you actually want to do the thing. But it's also really highly effective when stacked in low doses. I'm talking about 100 to 200 milligrams with other synergistic compounds. A good example of that would be the Cortex stack, or just taking the ingredients in the Cortex stack and taking them separately. You've got uridine and CDP choline in that stack, a little bit of Bacopa in the stack, And then artichoke extract. The artichoke extract's only dosed in somewhere around 100 milligrams. And you got the uridine at 150 and the CDP choline at 75, Bacopa at 300. That extra bit of energy in conjunction with like the uridine CDP choline energy, it takes the stack to a different level. And I rigorously tested this when creating the Cortex stack. Like, without the artichoke extract, it just wasn't the same. With the artichoke extract, I literally created this insane, clean stimulant feeling on the onset of the stack that lasts a great duration of the stack. But you could take it by itself as well. You could take it in 500 to 800 milligrams by itself, and you should get a bump in brain energy, a brain clearing and a bump in brain energy. You could stack artichoke extract in like 500 milligrams with like 300 to 500 milligrams of Alcar and get a brain energy effect that's sort of doubling upon just the effect that artichoke extract alone gets you, because Alcar is working on mitochondrial energy production in the brain. So you have two things fostering energy production in the brain. Those are some of the best ways to use artichoke extract. It is an underrated compound. It is in the Cortex stack for a reason. I mean, look, if you haven't tried Cortex, just so you can get the feeling for how this affects you, get it. Because the artichoke extract is absolutely a critical element in that stack. Lastly, Bacopa. So Bacopa's doing a lot. Over time, and this is sort of difficult to say how long this is, but let's call it a 2-month period. One of the things it's doing is regulating the serotonin transporter. Serotonin transporter's job is to first allow serotonin to enter cells, but at the same time, its job is to adequately clear and recycle serotonin so that you don't run into a serotonin depletion problem. A reservoir depletion. That's the I wouldn't call it the sole function, but a major function of the SERT. Keeping serotonin binding correctly, clearing it when it needs to be cleared, setting it aside for recycling, and then bringing it back in the synaptic space for you to use serotonin at a later time. The other thing that it does, Bacopa, is it's a mild acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. So that will keep some acetylcholine around longer in your brain for the acute period that you're taking it. The SERT thing is sort of a longer term thing. The acetylcholinesterase inhibition is acute. And then lastly, it's been clinically proven that Bacopa extends the length of axons and dendrites, the branches in your brain. I mean, these are the sort of signaling branches that neurons use to communicate with each other. And the health of axons and dendrites is critical to general baseline great brain function. So Bacopa, on a daily regimen of 300 to 800 milligrams, let's call it, over time should make your brain function better. You should get memory benefits from it, maybe some verbal fluency benefits from it, just because you're extending axon and dendrite branches and function in the brain. And then again, acutely, in like a 200 to 500 milligram dose range, you'll get some acetylcholinesterase inhibition, which will give you some more choline to work with in the brain. It'll give you some memory and some focus. The general dose range on it is 200 to 1,000 milligrams, but again, it really depends on what you're trying to use it for. If you're using it long term to try to just generally improve brain function, I'd be taking 300 to 500 milligrams 5 days a week. That's like one good example. If you're using it to regulate SERT, I'd be taking 500 to 1,000 milligrams 5 days a week ongoingly. If you're using it for the acetylcholinesterase inhibition and that brain performance that you'll get from it, I'd be shooting at like 200 to 500 milligrams of it, and you should get a noticeable effect from it. Now, look, it stacks with other things. It stacks with the racetams well, in a way that sort of balances out extra stimulation. Probably because of its action on SERT, just like making serotonin work a little better. There's some research that I read a long time ago that I can't remember off the top of my head, so don't quote me on it, that it may actually be inducing small bursts in the release of serotonin. So it's sort of brain regulatory in that manner. Overall, though, just an extremely multifaceted compound. Now, all the compounds that we talked about have more than one mechanism of action. They're doing a lot of things. And if you use these chemicals intelligently, how I've laid out in this podcast, you can get some pretty substantial effects from what seem to be, merely unimportant herbs, but they're not. Tulsi holy basil, L-theanine, Ginkgo, artichoke extract, Bacopa, and lemon balm. These are highly effective, highly useful, highly multifaceted nootropic compounds. So use them. It's been great talking with you. Go support us, livecortex.com. Look, if you want a powerful stack, Cortex stack, that stuff just turns everything on. Imagine having clean stimulant energy and then working memory and motivation to do things. On top of that, verbal fluency. The stack really hits every aspect of good brain function. Get Cortex at livecortex.com. Perfect subscription price at $27.99. Nootropics Ground Zero if you're new. Nootropics Masterclass if you want to ascend to the 6-year mark in using nootropics. Nootropics God Course if you want to go to the 10+ year mark. And then lastly, if you'd like to work with me, I've got slots open on both the 3.5-month and the 6-month intensive nootropics and energy consulting programs. These are programs where I dedicate a lot of my time to making you function incredibly. Your brain function, your general energy. If testosterone is an issue, we have to work on that. If sleep is an issue, we've got to work on that. If you're coming off of Adderall and your brain is not functioning right and you need to repair it, we will work on that. It encompasses all of those things. Get either one of those consults at livecortex.com. They are primarily targeted toward business folks who have got the budget and just want to say, screw it, I need to function at my peak. Do that at livecortex.com. Thank you so much for being with me, everybody. Talk to you next time.